It's really kind of funny because when I go to conferences and stuff, people know me as a composer, but that's like 5% of my time. Most of my time is just doing lessons with the kids. I love it.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Scrappy Piano Teacher podcast. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Jacqueline Morozic, but of course, you can call me Jackie. And this is a place where we have honest, practical conversations about creating music and magic for our students while building studios that are sustainable long term. I think many of you most likely know Jason Sifford as a composer. And if you don't yet, well, after this episode is over, you definitely should check it out. His music is published by Willis Music, to just name one of many. But beyond composing, Dr. Sifford holds a doctorate in music. He runs an active and successful piano studio. He is deeply involved with the Music Teachers National Association, and he understands both sides, the academic side of music and the very real week-to-week life of teaching students, just like we do. And in this episode, we talk about how he runs his studio. I pick his brain a little bit about how he prepares students for jazz band. There's all kinds of little gems and nuggets in here, and I think you're going to enjoy all of it. But real quick, before we dive in, I do have one quick little favor. So over 60% of you listen to multiple episodes of this podcast, but you have not hit subscribe just yet. If this show has helped you in any way, the biggest compliment you could ever give me is to simply subscribe and maybe even share it with another teacher. I produce this independently. That means that my team consists of me, myself, and I, and we work really hard. We work really, really hard for you. So your support truly helps it reach more teachers who might benefit. All right. Stick around for the end. I do have a great Scrappy Circle to tell you about, but first, I really want to share my conversation with Dr. Jason Sifford. All right, welcome, Jason. I am so glad that you're here with us today. Can you just go ahead and give us a snapshot of your studio right now and your teaching, like the size of your studio? I need to know all of the things.
Okay. All of the things are, I have an independent studio. I have 31 students. Most of them are, I just teach out of my house behind me, as everybody can see. I do have a couple of students that I see at a local music store on Wednesdays. Most of the lessons are 45 minutes. I do have like some sibling pairs that I'll do an hour with, do 30-30 with them. But that's pretty much it as far as like the teaching side of what I do. And then there's, a variety of other music related things.
All right. So I want to talk more about your studio, but I have more questions just about you as a composer, because I find it so interesting because it's not a world that I am familiar with. Because you composed for Wendy Stevens on Compose Create.
Yes.
Right? And then you're with Willis, and then you do your own independent. Do you have an independent store?
Not really.
Okay.
I have sort of plans for a strange one, but that'll be months in the future to be continued on that one. No, the other stuff I'm doing right now is I write for children's musical theater. So my friend Katie does the script and the words, and she's kind of a theater genius. And then I come in and put some music behind it.
What a blast. I bet that's so much fun. Is this your first summer doing it?
This is summer number 6.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So we'll run about 20 camps every summer with across 3 different shows. It's become quite a project.
So do you teach in the summertime, or do you take a break so that you can do this kind of a thing?
I take a little bit of a break, sort of, just by virtue of the fact I live in a college town. So most of my students will take an extended vacation over the summer. So that 30 students drops down to, 10 a week in the summer pretty quick.
Okay. So are your students, are they college age?
Age ranges are, the youngest is 7. And then it goes all the way up. I have a couple of juniors in high school. I have like 2 adult students, but that's not really my thing. These are mostly friends that just wanted to take lessons. So we do it.
I decided I'm not an adult teacher.
Oh, I'm not an adult.
I maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I don't like teaching adults, because I relate with the 6-year-olds. So I knew that you had a full studio, but I didn't realize it was this full because you're so active in everything else. And as I said in the bio, you are a big part of the MTNA, Iowa. So how much time does that take up, let's say per month, goes into the MTNA with your responsibilities?
Per month, it's just, I don't know, a few hours. It's not super time intensive. I mean, some months, every now and then there'll be MTNA has a summit in September. So that's like a 2.5-day event that we go to. I go to all the conferences and meetings and things like that. And then beyond that, it just kind of depends on what's needed at the moment. So right now,
does it depend on like the time of year too?
Yeah, and that's something actually I learned a lot from like Wendy Stevens, talking to her, because she's talked to me about seasons in the year, and I like it. So, and I try to carve my year up that way. So like right now I'm very much in teaching studio mode. I have students doing the Federation Festival this weekend. I had students do our IMTA events last weekend. And so everybody's gearing up for performances and things like that. Then once that's over, it'll be, I'll keep the normal teaching schedule, but since nobody's getting ready for performances, then I can devote a little bit more time to going to MTNA in March. Then when MTNA is over, I'll get, start burning the midnight oil on the musical.
Yeah. Okay. So do you not do an end of year recital then? Is that all before
My
mid-March?
recital, I always do my recitals really early. So like my fall recital was before Thanksgiving. And then I always end up doing an end of year recital, usually middle to like third week of April.
Okay.
Around here, it just seems a lot easier just because the kids get so busy at the end of the semester. Because most of my students are involved in band and orchestra and choir and show choir and sporting events. And I've tried to find kind of the sweet spot where I can get most of them involved.
Well, I'm being really nosy about your studio setup and just kind of the routine of your calendar, because I really would love to talk about the way that your studio is set up. But with you doing so many different things, with being so involved with MTNA, doing this theater group, composing for all these various places, and having these seasons, I'm really curious how your studio is designed. Like if every year it's kind of the same thing, do you just go with the flow?
I mean, some things are always the same, like and it's just from having lived here. And so we always start lessons the week after school starts. We always end lessons the week before school's out. Everything I do is private lessons. It's a pretty traditional studio as things go in terms of like how it runs. I feel like the kinds of things that we do aren't as traditional. I've always kind of described myself as having a little bit of professional ADD. Like I keep doing like different things. So I'll be like a classical pianist for a while, and then I'll get tired of that and I'll go do jazz, and then I'll go do theater, and I've worked in churches, and I'll do the whatever. And so a lot of that ends up kind of bleeding into the studio a little bit. Last semester, I had a couple of students high school students got really into classical literature. So we were doing a lot of that kind of thing. I also have 3 or 4 students who are playing in their middle school and high school jazz bands. So those lessons look very, very different because we're basically, working on the music that they're bringing home from jazz band. I'll help them out with all the rhythms and voicings in it. We'll work on improvising. And it's nice because we get to work on improvising in the tunes that they'll actually do in concert, which is kind of fun. And then sometimes, I'll have students that will come in and have just pretty specific goals. Like I had a kid, this was so funny, a couple years ago, he wanted to do some Billy Joel. And it's like, fine, I was an 80s kid. I like Billy Joel. And then he said he wanted to play it on the recital. I'm like, great, that sounds like fun. We get to the recital. He sang it and played. I was not expecting him to sing and play. I didn't really know.
You didn't know that before the recital, before the performance?
No idea. He just starts playing and then and he knew it. He had a great voice.
Thank goodness, right?
But I love it. So, it was a little scary those first 5 seconds. No. But anyway, so we had this recital and the kids started singing and I thought it was lovely because I wasn't expecting it. It's like, oh, I discovered he likes to sing. And so ever since then, we've done a little bit of both.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. You seem like you're a very kind of laid back, go with the flow teacher. Whatever the student's interested in, like, okay, let's go in that direction. I want to kind of rewind a little bit though, to your jazz band kids. I've had this happen myself where students try out for jazz band and they come back with this music that is so much more difficult than what they've ever seen. And, I'm trying to help them. Do you have any advice or tips for us traditional teachers?
So, I started thinking a lot about this a couple of years ago and putting some things together. But, I think the first thing that you have to know about school jazz bands is that the kids are going to get everything written out. There's actually not a lot of like chord symbols that you need to decipher or a lot of improv that you need to do. There's actually a lot of just notes on the staff that you have to read. And it's usually you're playing along with a trumpet line or a horn line. So you have to do the same thing that they're doing. So that actually makes it pretty tricky because there actually isn't any freedom or room for error because you're in a band. The other problem, of course, is that flat keys are easier for all the band instruments. So all of the tunes are going to be in F and B flat and E flat and C minor and A flat. And, as we all know, piano methods are the opposite. Like pianists and actually string players love C, G, maybe a little D and some F. And that's about it. Like there's not a ton in other keys. So those are like the two biggest hurdles, is just like realizing that like, oh, it is reading, but you have to do it accurately. And then you just have to get good at accidentals. Like you just have to get really good at B flat major. And so for my students that are looking at it, I actually have like some jazz tunes that I use to help them out with those keys. There are some collections by Ross Pito that's published by Chose that are really, really good to use. There's some really clever things by Elisa Milne that work really, really well. I've written a couple of things that I'll use, but the idea is like, just, it could be anything, but like get kids playing in the key of B flat. It's hard to find. There's not much out there.
Yeah. Do you ever go along with even just your traditional scales and that kind of thing, just to get them more familiar with?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That in general.
Scales. Yeah. And then, the standard accompanying advice, like, drop the right hand and just play the left hand. Because it's, the nice thing about jazz bands, you don't have to play everything. Like almost everything the pianist does is going to be somewhere else in the band. So, you don't get partial credit for trying. You get full credit for what you did play.
Okay. This is actually really, really helpful. Have you ever had a student say, I'm auditioning for jazz band, and you're thinking to yourself, this is not going to happen?
I'm laughing because last semester I had a kid come in saying he was going to audition for his high school jazz band. And I said, oh, great, when are auditions? And he said, tomorrow.
Oh, of course. Why wouldn't they be?
Anyway, I said, so do you know what you're going to play? And he's like, no. And I'm like, all right, good luck with that. Like, I really didn't know what to do. He did get in. He's an excellent pianist. He can read and so he scraped together enough. I think he practiced for like 2 hours the night before his audition because they gave him like an excerpt from a tune or something to figure out. But yeah, that was kind of the funny one. But I also tell kids, just audition, because one of the weird things, this is something I learned from theater, is that it's a lot like playing in recitals. The only way to get better at playing in recitals is to play in recitals. Yeah. And so the only way to get better at auditioning is to audition. So I have a lot of actor friends who will take auditions for roles that they are not right for and will never get because they need the practice of preparing sides or preparing a song and then going in and doing their slate and talking to the director and then leaving. And they do it just for the experience. And so I'll tell kids to do that. I'm like, just do it for the experience. Go audition. And then come back next week and tell me what was great and what made you feel like an idiot. And then that gives us something to work on.
That is excellent advice, actually. I've never really looked at it from that perspective.
Bands rehearse at tempo. It is more difficult for a trumpet player to go slow. So they're never going to go slow for you. So it's got to be just go. And students tend to rise to the level of their preparation. And so if they have like a goal to aim for, it's pretty impressive what they can accomplish sometimes. They will also, like, if you give them, 6 months to learn a piece, they will also spend 6 months learning a piece. And so
you are absolutely right about that. All right, I want to ask you some questions that I think would be on Facebook posts. Like, what does Jason have to say? All right, student count. I call it the magic number. Like somebody's measure of success. Mm-hmm. Being that they need to have all these students. So example, I always notice every recital season when people post pictures of their beautiful shining students, they will put a little disclaimer saying, well, not everybody was able to make it, or this one's small because I like divvied up. Like they almost like they need to explain themselves. And I'm sitting there thinking like, don't explain yourself. You just had a performance. Like that's great. It doesn't matter how many students you have.
Yeah. Well, first, I should preface this by saying that I'm 100% guilty of that. You know what I mean? Having the picture of like the 12 students, like I have others, but they were busy. Yeah. The number thing is always tricky because I think, and I was thinking about this, when you asked me to come on, my brain's been kind of chewing on it. And I think the trick is that, a lot of times we give things importance that we know how to measure. And so student numbers, you can have like a number and, and there's teachers out there with like 2 and there's teachers out there with like 80 and 80 sounds more impressive than 2, but like, you don't know, what that really means. And so I think what I think of for myself is just kind of how it's aligning with my goals. Like I need a certain number of students to have like the kind of community I want to have in the studio. I need a certain number of students to make the kind of income that I need to make to pay the bills and all that. I need a certain, and then there actually does come a point at which having too many students starts to make me worse at my job. So, one year I got up to 40 and that's when I discovered that I don't know how to run a 40 student studio well. So I can accomplish what I need to accomplish with 30. And so I'm kind of sticking there for now. When I moved here, I had 10 because it takes a while to get a studio going. And I lucked out. I had a teacher that sent me some students because she was moving out of town. So I started with 2 and I thought that was hugely successful. We had lovely recitals and a good time learning music and it worked out really, really well. Yeah, numbers are dangerous.
Numbers are so dangerous, but I love what you said about being able to measure because I think that we do think that way and we don't take into account that things can look so different for every teacher and time too. Like you said, you teach in 45-minute slots. I teach in 45-minute slots as well. But if a teacher teaches in 30-minute slots, then maybe they can take more and that kind of a thing. I did a lot of groups last year. I do private lessons and I do partner lessons or buddy lessons or whatever. And then we do collaborative classes a couple times throughout the year. But as far as like weekly group classes, I only do that for my super, super littles that are all learning the same thing. But anyway, last year I tried doing the whole studio in groups that were 8th grade and under. And I know that there are amazing group piano teachers out there that can manage it just fine and it works for them and they thrive on it. But I had to come to a point where I was like, this is just not me. And that's okay. Yeah. Like I don't have to be this amazing group piano teacher like I see on Facebook. So I feel like sometimes I have to constantly try things and be like, okay, I'm not that kind of teacher and that's okay. I'm this kind of teacher and I'm successful at it. My students are successful. Yeah. And so I'm going to be okay with that.
My goal is to get rid of Fridays.
Oh, you teach on Fridays.
I teach on Fridays and they're kind of complicated. And right now I'm teaching like 6 days a week, but Fridays and Saturdays are really light. And so I'm like,
oh, you teach on Saturdays too.
So I'm like, maybe I should just stop Friday. So maybe that's my goal.
But doing 31 students, private lessons, 45 minutes, that's a hard to fit into a week.
The trick is I tried to organize my schedule so that I have different kinds of students every day. Thursdays is kind of my really long day. It has 2 high school students that are playing advanced literature and are super independent. It has 1 girl that's 8 and needs a lot of, hands-on help, and 2 more that are transfer students who are new to me, and then another 1 or 2 that I've known for 6 or 7 years. And so having that kind of balance is really important. The worst day for me, energy-wise, would be if I had to teach 6 students who were all new to the studio, who I didn't know. Whereas, if I've known a kid for 6 or 7 years, I can be, hey, can you work on that? And I'm going to go eat a granola bar.
That was going to be my other question is how do you eat? Don't you get hungry? I get this question all the time from teachers who say that they're totally getting burnt out because they can't find any time to eat. And this is valid.
I mean, the funny thing is I was talking to a friend of mine who was in healthcare, and this is years ago. And I was kind of describing, because you know how we always have to kind of describe our jobs to other people. And they just looked at me and so you have a second shift job? And I'm like, oh yeah, there's a whole world of people who work second shift. You know what I mean? They start at 4 and then they go till 10. And you just organize your life around that, so I'll have a snack before I start, and I'll have a snack when I get done. I eat a larger breakfast and lunch to kind of get me through it all. So, it's a second shift job. You just have to figure out that.
That's a great way to just kind of shift your thinking. This is what you have. So yeah, just figure it out. So
for the music to learn, it has to sound good. So here we go.
So 31 students, you have programs throughout the year. You have the traditional recitals, evaluations, that kind of a thing. So I'm curious, because tracking 31 students in itself can be difficult. Do you use any kind of music studio software, or do you do your own spreadsheets?
I use my music staff, but that's just for the scheduling and the billing and that part of it. For the educational stuff, I basically do 2 things. I have everybody gets a binder at the beginning of the year, and then I take notes. There's this app called Good Notes that's an iPad app, and it allows me to handwrite stuff.
Nice.
And then what I do is I print it out for them and put it in their binder at the end of every lesson. So I have a copy of what we've been doing on my iPad, and then they have a paper copy of it that they can take home. Because, nobody actually logs on to check their assignments.
No,
ever.
No, they don't. I use it too. I use the note feature, the lesson notes. But that was a pandemic thing I had, because I was so traumatized by not accessing my students' notebooks that I was this will never happen again.
The only other thing I have is I do keep a spreadsheet, and it just has all the students' names down one side. And then it basically has the things that I think they'll probably want to prepare for, recitals and stuff like this. And then I'll just start writing in some repertoire planning. Stuff that I think. I also level all my students. Iowa has this leveling system, A through F, in our syllabus. And so whether or not they do the Iowa festival, I still assign everybody a letter just so I have kind of a ballpark. And then I have music that's kind of filed by level. And then I've got, my box of jazz, and then my box of video game music, and my box of pop and that kind of thing. So a lot of it is just, kind of having a broad view of who I'm dealing with, and then having all the resources here really easy to get to.
Yeah. Well, that saves so much time. So how often do you look at that spreadsheet?
Once every couple weeks.
Yeah. So you just kind of know in the back of your mind who's doing what, and, we got to prepare for this.
And, students will kind of be on different trajectories. I'll get a sense, if they're preparing for a performance, then we do those kinds of things. If we're learning new music, we're doing those kinds of things. If we are trying to deal with jazz band, then we're doing those kinds of things.
Well, Jason, this was so great. Thank you. It was very insightful just to kind of get a peek inside of your studio and see how you run things. And it sounds like you've been doing this for a while, and you just know what works, and you have it down to a little bit of a science.
I have. It's really kind of funny because when I go to conferences and stuff, people know me as a composer, but that's 5% of my time. Most of my time is just doing lessons with the kids. And it's pretty much everything. I love it.
Well, Jason, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jason Sifford, and thanks to listeners for listening and enjoying this conversation. I really hope that you found just as much value in it as I did having the conversation with him. Before you log off here and move on with your day, I want to invite you to a free Scrappy Circle that is happening on March 13th of 2026 at noon Eastern Time. This one is all about summer camps. Several teachers will be sharing the camps that they have created, what works, and how they structure them. My goal is to create one central place where we can see real camp ideas without having to bounce from website to website or Google like crazy or dig through social media threads looking for that perfect camp for your summer. If you have a camp that you would like to share, please reach out. Even if we cannot fit everyone into the live conversation, I will include your information in the shared camp link collection that will be sent to everyone. That's right. I'm trying to get as many camps as I possibly can into one database so that you know exactly where to go to find the camp that works best for you. And if you cannot attend live, go ahead and RSVP. Again, it's free. You will receive the recording along with access to the camp links afterwards. The link is in the show notes. I hope that you join. And if you just want to subscribe to the email list, you can do so at www.scrappypianoteacher.com. Thanks for being here. I'll see you all next week. Bye.